Bert Oliva's Mastermind Circle.
Hello, and welcome back to another Mastermind Circle session. Today we're going to be doing a little bit about body talk, which is really interesting. It's something that's going to help your business and your personal relationships. So if you don't have a paper and pencil, please get something to write these things down. And if you're able, also take screenshots, part of the presentation. And I will be taking a few questions at the end. So are you guys ready? So if you're ready, let me know. Raise your hands to make sure you guys are here and ready, and make sure that you guys are excited, because I'm excited. But before I get started, I want to also welcome the new members. We have a couple of new members that joined, and also want to invite. I also want to welcome the guests, all the guests that we have, and existing members. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. So we really love what's going on here. We love how the community is growing, and we really love the feedback that you give us. So make sure to stay in touch with us. And also members, I want you guys to make sure that you guys go behind the scenes. Go into your username and password in the membership, and make sure that you look at all the latest, the past episodes and lessons and so forth. Because sometimes when we watch something, like for example, if you've ever seen a movie and you go back and look at the movie maybe a year later or even a few months later, you look at it with different eyes and you're able to capture things that you didn't capture the first time. So I highly recommend that you guys go back, look at some of the topics, and enjoy yourself. We're close to over 40 hours of content. So I'm really excited about that too. So before we get started, for the members and new members, you know what we do. We're going to give you a brief description of who I am. My name is Bert Oliva. Been doing this for over 21 years. I'm going to play a video, and then it's going to tell you what this Mastermind is all about, and then we'll get started. So here we go.
Bert Oliva is an international orator. He speaks around the world about his experiences and teaches humanology, the scientific study of human potential. He has enchanted audiences all over the world, showing them the power of mind over matter.
He's one of the most talented speakers out here, and I highly recommend him to any type of
The more prepared you are, the luckier you'll be.
He is the world-renowned authority on leadership and human behavior.
Mr. Bert Oliva.
Bert Oliva.
He's considered the voice of inspiration and motivation. Today, he'll pass his knowledge on to all of us.
For over 2 decades, Bert Oliva has touched the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Bert has a dedicated social media following and an impressive online influence few possess, enabling him to communicate with audiences he has touched near and far.
I think he's one of the greatest motivators out there.
The thing I love about Bert is he's on stage and he gives his heart every single time.
He has developed many programs, recorded audio CDs, and written books, all of which to help those ranging from individuals to corporate and Fortune 500 companies. He has dedicated his life to speaking all over the globe and met some of the most influential and powerful people in the world.
Okay, let's go.
He has also coached highly successful business executives and politicians.
Normally seen as impossible.
I believed it and I did it.
An infectious motivator.
So get ready to learn tools that will help you tap into your potential.
Pay attention, this is real stuff.
Get ready to have an experience you won't soon forget. Please help me welcome Bert Oliva.
All right, welcome back. Today we're going to talk a little bit about NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. It's being able to read a person. And we have a program that we actually certified certain students to be able to go out there and teach NLP. We don't have enough time to do it. However, I put together a PowerPoint that it's going to give you at least enough information for you to be able to read people a little better, especially yourself. Because if you want to succeed in life, you got to be able to know what's your favorite modality and who it is you're communicating with. And we'll get into the details as we go on. So if you guys are ready and excited, raise your hands. I want a participation. The more people participate, the more I get excited, because I know you're there. I see you there. And I want to make sure that you guys are engaged, involved, because the more you put in anything in life, the more you will get out. Do you guys agree? Okay. So here we go. Neuro-linguistic programming. NLP is an approach to communication, personal development, and psychotherapy. It is based on the connection between neurological processes and, language and behavior patterns. You can actually tell or have better communication with the person with some of the tools I'm going to share with you today. So what I want you guys to understand is this is not everything, because in my seminars we talk about micro expressions, breathing patterns, and there's a lot of stuff. But the tools that I'm going to give you today, and the good thing is that you'll be able to ask questions at the end. It's pretty much flawless. If you learn these simple tools, and a lot of people take years to study this, I've been able to break it down in a simplistic manner so everyone can start applying it immediately. So here we go. Communication. 55% of the impact we make depends on how we look and behave. 55%. 38% is how we speak. And then 7% on what we actually say. See, people will tell you certain things and they think they got the message across clear. However, pay attention to the chart. Look at what's going on here. How we speak depends on how you use your voice, your voice fluctuation, what type of words you're using, depending to connect with your audience, whoever that audience is, whether you're a speaker or you're doing a presentation in school or in your business or you're doing a presentation to one of your clients. You think in your mind, the way we've been conditioned that, okay, people will understand what we're saying because, it's clear to me, but it might not be clear to them. Then you're wondering, why can't I close more? My presentation is flawless and it could be great, but if you're not communicating with the modality of the person on the other side and you're doing your modality and you don't even know what that is, then the communication is not as strong as it can be. Does that make sense? So again, 55% on the impact depends on how we look and behave. They're judging you as you're walking in the door, depending on what you're wearing. If you're wearing, an expensive watch, if you're wearing a tank top with holes, it gets to a certain level in life that really that doesn't really matter. However, when you're doing business or you want to give your communication across clearly, you want to make sure that you look a certain way and that the more knowledgeable you are about what it is that you're talking about, the more people will listen and connect with you. Does that make sense? All right. So this is a great chart. If you're able to take a screenshot and let's move forward. 2,700 languages around the globe, 7,000 dialects. And then international pilots actually speak one main language, which is English. So even around the world, doesn't matter, it ends up being close to that one powerful language. And also dialects. People tell me all the time, well, you're Cuban and you live in South Florida, so everyone in South Florida speaks the same language. No, because you have Colombians, you have Puerto Ricans, you have Venezuelans, you have people from Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, and we all have different dialects. In fact, one of the hardest presentations that I always have to do, depending on where I'm going, like right now I'm going to Ecuador in November, and I got to do a presentation to the Pan Regional. So I'm going to hit a lot of people, and I got to be very selective and be very careful the type of dialects that I use, because the dialect for a certain language may be insulting for someone else. So this is, I wish I had more time. And you know what? If you guys really like this topic, you let me know, and I'll do a couple of different phases where we talk about different things, languages and hand movements and so forth. But today is all about NLP. These are the top 6 modalities. You have auditory, you have visual, you have kinesthetic, you have smell, you have touch, and you have taste. See, people that are audio like to hear things. People that are visual like to see things. People that are kinesthetic are emotional driven people. People that like to be touched on the inside, not touch physically. Smell, touch, and then taste. Now, the last 3, if you look at this, I highlighted the first 3 on top. Those are the ones we're going to focus on today. The other 3 are very simple. If you wear cologne and the cologne arrives into the room before you did, that's way too much cologne. So you want to make sure it smells, unless you're a chef and so forth, that's not something that is really easy to break down, and we don't really have the time for that. However, smell is a modality that people kind of a sense that people have, that people communicate with. Also touch. Depending on where you're from, in my culture, being that I'm Cuban, a lot of people like to touch you physically, like, hey, Bert, I got to tell you something. Pay attention to me, touch, touch, touch. And people don't like that. So, the best thing to do is avoid your hands getting close to anyone at any given time, unless they allow you to put your hand on their shoulder, whatever the case is. And then taste. Don't go around licking people. Because that's really, and the reason I'm having fun with these last three is because we're not going to put the emphasis on these three today. We're going to focus on the top three. There's a lot of information on the top three, and then if you apply these top threes and you pay close attention to what I'm about to tell you, you'll be amazed how within the next 21 days your communication skill will expand. Now, I have people here that have a radio show. I have people here that run their own business. I have people here that work for a major business. I have people here that go to school. So this applies to everyone. If you're a human being, this will apply to you. So let's start with visual. Visual people, if you talk to them on the phone, if you're doing sales on the phone, or you communicating with someone on the phone, they usually use words like this. They'll say, I see what you mean. That looks like a great idea. I want the big picture. See, so I want you to look at these phrases that I have up on the screen. And if you are that type of person, that you're more visual than auditory or kinesthetic. Now, let me explain something. We have all three modalities. We're all visual, we're all auditory, we're all kinesthetic. However, at certain times of our lives, depending on where we live, depending who we surround ourselves with, depending on who we communicate with, one modality is always stronger than the other. For example, for me, I am extremely visual. Even though I've worked on my other two modalities, and I brought them pretty up high, close to my visual. However, I know that visual is my number one key. So if I'll say something like, oh, show me, I want to see it. So a lot of times, and here, let me move on to the auditory, and then I'll break it down for you how this would work on a sales call. Auditory, they use words like, tell me again. I'm not sure I heard you right. Heard, they want to hear you. It sounds like a good idea. That's an auditory person. And then kinesthetic use like, I sense what you mean. That feels right to me. I can't get the handle on this concept. You get what I'm saying? So let's say, for example, let's use a scenario. You're making a phone call, you're talking to that person, and you want to set up a meeting with them. And a lot of times what happens is we've been trained when you work for a company or, a company or whatever the case is, they usually tell you, this is the sales process. And you're going to get on that phone and you're going to go ahead and get the person to set up that appointment. However, there's a lot of time that's being wasted when you can actually do an upsell. You can sell a product or service to a person that's auditory without having to see them, because they don't need to see your presentation. They don't need to see the numbers. They want to be told about it. Or an example is they want to feel how much better their life is going to be if they purchase this product. Does that make sense to you? If it makes sense to you, raise your hand. I want to make sure you guys are here with me. Come on now, raise your hands. Here we go. So I'll give you an example. If I get on the phone and I'm doing a sales call and I'm like, my name is Bert Oliva. We've been doing seminars for over 21 years, and we do sales and training to major organizations. And then the person says, Bert, I love what you're saying, but my boss needs to see it. So automatically, being that that person says that, they're telling me that the boss needs to see it. That means they're visual. I would definitely set up an appointment with that person. However, the person tells me, I really don't have the time to see this. Can you please explain it to me? Then the sale is being made at that precise moment. I don't have to see that person. So my sales process will adapt depending on who I'm talking to. Does that make sense? So this is the way you break it down. Again, I recommend that you take a screenshot of this, or at the end, if you contact Valerie, she'll go ahead and send you the slide. But realistically, what I want you to do, I don't want the easy way out. I want you guys to take initiative, take action. So if you take it and take a screenshot now, then you have it now. The next thing is visual people. What type of visual people? People that are visual, what do? They use graphics. They like to use charts. They like to see things. A visual person likes to have things drawn out. Let me see it. Explain to me. Show me a map. That's a visual person. They like to do flip charts. A person that does a lot of flip charts is because they're visual and they want everyone to see what it is they're talking about. When a person is auditory, they won't really have to worry so much about showing it to you because they visualize it in their mind because they like the sound of their voice. But we'll get to the auditory part. Emphasize on taking notes. A visual person likes to take notes, and usually it's not just notes. They'll go ahead and draw little images and so forth. Why? Because they are visual. Also, they like to eliminate distraction. A visual person likes to focus on one or two things at most, preferably just one, because being that they're visual, they want to get that focus, and they don't want to stray from that. So usually when a person is visual, you don't want to show them 3 or 4 things. You just want to show them that one thing, because whatever you're showing them, they're detailing it. The other thing is they use illustration. We talked about that, you know, images. If you have your presentation, in fact, if you have a presentation, I recommend that you use the 3 modalities in your presentation. You use visual for the visual learner, you use auditory, and you use kinesthetic in your presentation. And you do that by the words that you use and how you use your body language when you're doing this presentation, even over the phone. See, you know, if you're on the phone and you're making a phone call and you're like, hi, my name is Bert, and I've been doing seminars for over 21 years, and I really want to motivate your team, chances are I'm not going to get that an opportunity. But if I'm excited and my voice fluctuation increases and I'm talking to you in a certain pace, chances are that you're going to give me that opportunity. You're going to give me those 5 minutes that I need to show you what it is that we do. Show, get it? Visual. Draw pictures, we talked about that too. Now, kinesthetic. People have a major confusion when it comes to kinesthetic. Kinesthetic is like, oh, they like to touch and feel. No, they like to touch and feel inside. Very emotional, very connected person. A lot of spiritual healers are kinesthetic people. Doesn't mean they're not visual. And by the way, being visual or not visual does not mean that you're not a visionary. Does that make sense? So at the end of the day, you know, a kinesthetic person is more like they use, you know, activities. They like to get involved. They like to play games. So if you know that person or you're that person, this is really important. I want you to try to figure out what is your strongest modality today. You know, I'll give you an example. A kinesthetic person loves agendas and handouts. Why handouts? Because they get to feel it, touch it. You know, besides just seeing it, the visual person wants to see it. The kinesthetic person wants to feel it. Colors and markers, you know, color markers and highlighters, kinesthetic people love that, because not only do they get to see it, but in the way is they get to use it. Anything that involves them using their physiology, their body, their emotions, they embrace themselves at such a whole different level. So keep that in mind. Are you that kinesthetic or are you visual? Right now we've just been talking about 2. Frequent breaks. A lot of kinesthetic people like to take breaks. You know, when you're doing a presentation, like, can I have a break? You know, because they get into emotional. In fact, kinesthetic people love watching movies, and those are the ones that get emotional in the movie. That they actually get engaged so much that they kind of go through the experience of whatever that actor is going through. Kinesthetic people also love to read books. You know, they love to read books. A kinesthetic person, the best gift you can give a kinesthetic person is write them a personal letter. A kinesthetic person, give them a book. They really love books. Provide toys. Use get their hands to actually get involved in a project. Also, guide through visualization for tasks. You know, get them to, again, get involved. A person that's kinesthetic needs to get involved. So, again, if you're visual, you want to see things done. You know, for example, I used to use this. I use this in my seminars. You know, my mom had no idea about these techniques back in the day. And mom used to always tell me, son, listen to me. Clean your room. And she would come back and I wouldn't really clean my room. And she'd say, well, nowadays, now that I know these tools, I would say something like, Mom, I'm visual. Why don't you show me how to clean the room? So at the end of the day, there was a miscommunication. She thought by her telling me, because she's auditory, I was going to actually do it. See, in relationships, this happens a lot of times. People don't communicate correctly because they don't even know what their strongest modality is. So again, if you're visual, you saw the slide, you saw some examples, find out if you're visual. If not, you're kinesthetic. Now, the auditory learner. The auditory learner recognizes, uses recording devices. Those are the people that actually like to record on those little recorders, and nowadays you can do it with your phone. They like to record it. You know why? Because they actually go back and listen to it again. You know, those are the people like audiobooks. They like to listen to it. They like to listen to music during an activity. You know, they like music. I mean, sometimes you're like, how can you work with music playing? Because that's how their brain functions. Here's another one. Um, um, they like to verbalize their questions. They like to say it. An auditory person likes the sound of their own voice. You know those people that sometimes talk a little too much? Chances are they're auditory. And they, a lot of times, don't listen as well as they like to talk because they're auditory. They like to actually hear their own voice. You know, develop dialogue with instructor. They like to communicate with the instructor. So what was it that you said? Oh, okay, now that makes sense. You know, let me tell you, we've used this all over the world, even with teachers. And my son, Miles, at one time he was doing really bad in school. And Miles is a auditory learner. And they would put him in front of the room because he wasn't doing so well. So they were like, why don't you get him in the front of the room so that way he can pay attention? Well, he was paying attention. But being so close to the teacher, he was blocking. So he wasn't really paying attention. As soon as they moved him to the back of the room, his grades went up. Why? Because he didn't need to be in the front. He wasn't visual. He was auditory. And by them doing that major disconnect, he was able to learn more. And the teacher was amazed. She was, this is incredible. I go, yeah, because you need to know what modality that student is in order to be able to help them learn more. So this stuff works for everything. Debrief activities. They like to break things down. They like, sometimes they'll say, let me make sure I got this. And they'll repeat it to you to make sure. Brainstorming. Auditory people love to brainstorm. They like to be in groups. You know, they like to be in groups because they like to hear what everyone has to say. Concluded with a summary. That's another thing. So, you know, there's a lot of ways that you can use this, but the first thing I recommend, here are 3 things I want you guys to do. Number 1, find your own modality. I want you for the next 7 days to really get a piece of paper and write down, you know, every day a little bit. Don't just do it all at once because a lot of times we lie to ourselves doing that. Just take a couple of notes, you know. Yeah, you know what? I've realized that I really like to see things or I like to hear things. And as you do this list of who you are, at the end of 7 days, you kind of tally it up and see what's visual, what's auditory, and what's kinesthetic. And when you tally it up, you'll realize, well, you know what? I have 9 traits that are visual and 6 that are auditory and 2 that are kinesthetic. So doesn't mean that you have all these traits. I mean, you do have them, but it doesn't mean that it lets you know which is your strongest trait. So now you know. See, I'm a visual learner, so I know how I want to be sold. I know how to be able to learn certain things a lot faster because I know what it is that my strong modality is. And modalities are amazing because you're able to work them out just like you work out a body part in the gym. You know, if you work out in the gym and you're into bodybuilding or sculpturing, you'll realize, you know what, I've been doing shoulders for a while. My shoulders are way too big, so I'm going to increase my chest exercises to, you know, you start forming yourself. Well, the same thing happens with using your brain. You're able to use certain techniques in order to expand the one that you're not strong in. For example, I've been visual my entire life, and I'm strong visual. However, I had a real close friend at one time that was an extremely strong auditory person. We used to go skating, we used to rollerblade for exercise. And I remember that, you know, I would have her sit down with me on the bench, and I would tell her, okay, I would close my eyes, and I would tell her, close your eyes. What do you hear? And she would say, I hear a car passing by. And then I would go, yeah, I can hear that too. And then she would say, I hear a grasshopper behind me. I'm like, no, this can't be it. I turn around, there was a grasshopper. Because her senses were so acute, so detailed that she was able to actually hear things that I wasn't listening to or hearing. So by practicing, I was able to hear more of those things. So you can work out that part of your brain in order for you to be able to master that sense. It may never surpass my visual, but it's really close up there. And then depending who I'm talking to, I'll turn that switch on. Kinesthetic, same thing. You know, you ask a person, how does this make you feel? You know, when you eat that apple, what experience are you going through? Well, I feel the tingling of the apple and the little, you know, the way it sprinkles, you know, little things around my face, or, you know, they kind of give you an experience of what they're going through with the emotional aspect. And I was able to learn that too. And it's amazing. And you become more compassionate. The more you get involved with learning, the more successful you'll be in life. Period. I tell people all the time, you want to be wealthy? I'll show you how to be wealthy. You really want to be wealthy? Learn how to communicate with people. Learn how to really connect. Learn how to really love people. Because we live in a people world. And a lot of people are egocentric, and it's all about them and all about what they can get. And those people may make it a little faster than you do, but they also crash a lot faster than we do. There's a saying that says, good guys finish last, but at least they finish. So I'm not saying that you can't go fast paced and succeed. All I'm saying is the more you learn, the more you will earn. Point blank, in everything that you do. And the best way for you to learn quickly is to find out what is your modality. Next exercise I want you to do for the next couple of days, 21 days, is find out modalities of those closest to you. I want you to go ahead and, if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, whoever your significant other is, find out what their modality is. Because a lot of times you have people having debates, discussion, arguments because the husband or the wife is saying, look at me, honey, I'm trying to show you why it is we're not getting along. And the other person is auditory, and they're like, I just don't get it. I don't see what you're trying to show me. Can you please explain it to me? How do you want me to explain it to you? I'm showing it to you. You see the miscommunication? So I want you to find out what your modality is, and then go ahead and find out the modalities of those people around you. And then see how much better your communication gets as you start figuring out what modality your parents are, your siblings, or your children. Or your grandchildren. Excuse me. Even if you are, like, for example, right now, I know that in this feed, there's close to 100 people right now in this feed. And we have, I'm sure that maybe, 50%, or let's say 25% of you are visual. So I'm making sure that when I'm talking to you, you can connect with me and see my hand movements and everything, because that's visual. Then I'll use certain words. Does this sound good to you guys? If it does, raise your hands. So what am I doing? What I'm saying is, if it sounds good to you, I'm talking to the auditory person, and then the other percentage, which is kinesthetic, I'm having you click on the button on the monitor in order to make sure that you're getting your part of the presentation. You see how it works? So this is powerful. However, for me, it's second nature. I've been doing it for over 22 years now. So if you start doing it, it becomes part of you, like blinking. I don't have to tell you close your eyes if there's dust coming in your direction. It automatically does it. Well, same thing will happen. If you practice these tools and you master them, it'll become part of what it is that you do and who you are as a human being. Here's another one. The third thing I want you to do is test yourself. A good way to test yourself is turn on the television and watch a movie or a program, and then turn off the volume and look at a part of that program, especially in YouTube. You can do this in YouTube and have fun with it because there's short clips. Go ahead and look at the clip, read the body language on what it is the person's doing, and then go back and look at the clip again and see if you were right. That'll help you expand your tools and body language. In fact, you can even do it. One of the things that I love to do is called people watching. I used to do it all the time. I used to go to the movies early just so I can people watch and see how people react and people communicate. So you can do it, in your privacy of your own home, or you can do it in public. There's always a place to learn. There's always a place for you to practice and expand. You'd be amazed how much more you get to find out about a person and how much more you can connect with a person by learning how to connect through these modalities. I'm about to go into some questions and answers. So if you guys have some questions, please make sure to press the Q&A button and tell Valerie you want to go live, and I'll take a few questions. I wanted to make this one short and sweet and hit the points the best that I could. We have an NLP test online, and we can offer that to the members. So if you're a member and you want to do an NLP test, so that way you know your modality, is a test that we have. It's absolutely free for the members. So if you're a member, Valerie just told me that. She says, we have the test, and if you guys want to take it, just make sure you contact her and let her know, and we'll go ahead and send you the link. You do the test, and then we'll give you the results, and we'll tell you how strong your modality is, which is the strongest, the second strongest, and your third strongest. And then you'll actually know exactly how you communicate. Now, mind you, remember I said this earlier, and I want to just reiterate this, that as your environment changes or who you surround yourself with changes, your modality will adjust. Like my daughter Sabrina. My daughter Sabrina is extremely visual, extremely visual. I think she's even more visual than I am. However, when her and her boyfriend, they were dating for a long time, he was auditory. And I knew that, you know, his modality was taken over. So her visual started tapering down and the auditory started increasing. So now she actually is strong on both parts. So at the end, you know, I even know when my children are hanging out with new people, new friends, they don't even have to tell me because their modality will start adjusting. And it's not that one person is stronger than the other. It usually happens when you're in groups. So it's just an amazing thing to start looking and paying attention to. The most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't being said. I love this quote. Hearing what isn't being said. So I'm going to ask one more time. Any questions? Come on now. Take action. We got a question. But before we go to the question, I want to tell everyone, make sure that you register. I'll be going out of the country. We're going to 4 different countries next week. And we're doing motivational missionary tours for the children. And I have an actual big event in a cruise ship. And I won't let you guys down. We're still going to be, you know, coming on and giving you something to learn from and the lesson. And it's probably going to be an interview. And we'll have it up and ready for you guys. So that way Wednesday comes up and you guys will be able to actually still continue the process of learning and being part of this mastermind. You know, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that we do this every Wednesday, like we've committed. Because if you committed your time and you've already allocated this time to come in here and connect with all of us, then it's our point to make sure that we do the same thing. So make sure you register for next week's session. Also, remember, every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, go to the mastermindcircle.com/free. We don't have it here. And you can offer a free link to friends that you have or acquaintances or even family members that you think they might like some of what it is that we're doing here, and they can actually participate in one of these sessions for free. And also, if you are a member, make sure you connect in Mastermind on Facebook and stay connected and ask questions and get involved and build those relationships. There's been a lot of strong business relationships that have been built by getting involved in the community. And this is what Mastermind is all about. So we have an anonymous question that says, how do you strengthen a weak modality? There is no modality that's weak. Keep that in mind. You want to know what's your modality, what's your strongest at. Once you figure that out, then you know what you're not so strong at. I don't want to use the word weak. And how do you master it? Depending on the modality. If you're kinesthetic, if kinesthetic is your weakness, find people that are kinesthetic and get more, ask them questions like, how does it feel when you watch a movie? Like at the end of a movie, how did that movie make you feel? You know, how does this experience make you feel? You know, what is it, you know, more of an emotional type of thing. By asking certain people and learning from those people that their modality is stronger will help you increase your modality. And then if a person is auditory, you know, when they listen to music or you see them having a good time or they're shaking to certain beats, ask them why. You know, why, what does this music do to you? What is it, you know, what is it you hear? And visual, same thing. What do you see? And again, it's a little more difficult than what I can explain here today. That's why if you have a good question like that one, that was a good question, come live. That way I can actually talk to you one-on-one and maybe I can get more into the detail, because if you can tell me what you think your modality is and, you know, we can actually talk about it right now, it'll be powerful. And then what is it that you want to work on? Then I can give you some examples. How do you work with someone whose modality conflicts with yours? That's a powerful question, because obviously the person is asking this question has figured out more or less what their modality is and who the other person's modality is. And the way it is that you put a hold on yours and you cater to them. Okay? So let's say, for example, if you're auditory and I'm visual, and I'll use this as an example, if I keep trying to communicate with you in a visual way, we're never going to communicate. Remember, you're the one that's working on you. You're the one that's sitting here. You're the one that's bettering yourself as a person. So since you're that person, then you get to be the bigger person. And what I'm saying is then that person is auditory, then you're going to go ahead and work with them with their modality. So I don't understand what's making you feel so uncomfortable. Please explain it to me. So see, now I'm talking to the person that's auditory. I really want to know how we can make this work. Please tell me. And when they start telling you and you're visual, maybe you tell them, you let them know, can I draw this out? And they're going to be like, what? Because you're now communicating. You're not arguing anymore. You're not having a debate or a fight. You're actually communicating. And the person sees you doing this, and that will help you increase that relationship. I hope that answers your question. So I hope you enjoy this session as much as I enjoyed making it for you. My name is Bert Oliva. Remember to live life and don't let life live you. I will see you next Wednesday.
Register online and join us today for all new live interviews and weekly topics only at themastermindcircle.com.